What is the key to getting a quarterback and a wide receiver when you watch them in camp? What's going to be the key for these two specifically to get together?
Well, I think CC could probably answer that better than me, but I believe it's repetition. Just having the opportunities in practice, going through the different drills, just trying to develop that rapport, understanding where the little nuances of each other's games. I think that's the important thing for Baker and Odell Beckham Jr. in terms of trying to get on the same page. But the one thing that and you didn't see that in that soundbite, but it was a part of that interview that Baker Mayfield did, he was talking about over-communicating. He was saying that's what the great teams do. They over-communicate. And so seeing him take that approach.
What does that mean, over-communicate?
Well, just always verbalizing things, just always talking through things. Like whether
with each other.
With each other, right after the play, in the sideline, between drills, all of those different things. Talking through each other and just understanding how the other person sees the game. That goes a long ways in terms of those guys being able to realize their full potential and maximize their productivity. So it's great to hear Baker talking about, speaking to his teammates, trying to get an understanding with them, deferring to the head coach, obviously, but also understanding that communication is important because you got to remember it's a completely new coaching staff in Cleveland. They elevated Freddie Kitchens from the OC to the head coach, but, I mean, there's a whole staff under him that's new to that team. So just everybody being on the same page, you got to talk through things. You can't assume that everybody has the same understanding of the concepts that you do.
And where they're going to have an added benefit starting just from this moment and for the going throughout this year is for both these guys, it's the best guy they've ever been on the other end from. This is the best quarterback Odell's ever played with. And that's not saying that Baker is now better than Eli ever was, but he's better than Eli was when Odell got to play with him.
Agreed.
And Odell's obviously the best wide receiver.
Yeah,
Baker had some really good ones at Oklahoma. And Jarvis is a hell of a player, but he's not Odell. Baker's never had a guy who he can miss on a throw as far as he potentially could miss on one to Odell and him still go up and get it. And so that immediately will add some comfort, if not familiarity. I think the point Chris made beforehand, which is aside from the X's and O's, and aside from how one quarterback's ball reads coming off their hand, the difference of velocities, is these guys are the most talented player anyone they've ever played with, but they also are very different personality-wise during the game on the sideline and communicating than what Odell's used to his quarterback doing and what Baker's used to his wide receiver doing. Now, Jarvis can be demonstrative, but he is not Odell on the sideline. And Eli is, all shucks Eli, as you would put it. He's very, you know what I mean? He stays right between the 40s as far as his demeanor. He stays very even-keeled. Baker can be much more intense, much more fired up, and much more in your face. And seeing, for good and for bad, how they deal with that interaction, how they deal with each other, I think is going to be very interesting to watch. But in these situations, always, you start with the talent and you build from there. And the talent here is undeniable. And the optimism they both have, the excitement about playing with each other, Odell's excitement about a fresh start, and Baker's excitement about having another major weapon, that gets them off, to me, on a great place.
How important was the chemistry with your quarterback off field as well? Because we're talking about them on the field, but if they don't mesh and they can't communicate, when they're not in a game, it's just clearly not going to work. Was that important to you? Did you spend time with the quarterback off the field?
This is the thing, because in pro sports, you can't run up and down that field all day. So the time you spend in the meeting room, the time you spend with the coaches, the time you spend in the locker room, and I believe just as valuable, the time that you and I just going to spend together, breaking bread and everything. The best units, the best chemistry that I've ever seen in any units, when you guys won the Super Bowl, there's a tremendous amount of sacrifice from the beginning. It's not how talented I am. It's what can I do to be able to help the team. If I can play defensive end, you had guys that, if I can move down and play tackle in running in passing situations, that's how you guys came up with the NASCAR package. That's how New England couldn't deal with you guys. They put 4 speed guys on the field. Regardless of Canty said, I'm better than these guys in this situation. There's an amount of buy-in and sacrifice that both these guys are going to have. But the only way you can really judge any relationship is based on when it's heated. You and your spouse, you and your significant other, you and the people you have relationships with, what happens when all chaos breaks out? Because I'm going to tell you, Baker's going to be cussing some wide receivers out. And wide receivers aren't used to getting yelled at. We are divas, and we like our information. It's different if he say, oh, man, you know something? He's a MF. Compared to, hey, MF, I need you to run this route. The verbiage is totally different. And when they get into games, how do they react? OBJ has got to get beyond the sideline antics he had in New York. Not because he's in Cleveland, but because at this point in your career, enough of that. And so many optics are going to be on him. He's got new teammates. He's got a new quarterback that could be affected. He's got a coach that could be affected. So let's see when they have their first big blow-up. Let's see if they, we got a prenup. We can get out of this thing. Or, you know something? We're going to go on down this road together for a long, long time, regardless knowing that I'm going to have some bumps along the way.
And go ahead.
Well, I just think that there's a lot of pressure on OBJ to try to make this situation work. But because before in New York, he could always look at the quarterback position and blame his production or lack thereof or the fact that they weren't winning on Eli Manning. He can't do that with Baker Mayfield. We saw what Baker Mayfield did in his rookie season. He was able to lead that team to 7 wins, a team that 2 seasons prior that had a combined total of 1 win. So Baker Mayfield is that agent for change in Cleveland. And I think because Baker has taken the position that he has, because he's so vocal now, and he actually pointed out the fact that now that he's not the backup, he's the starting quarterback, he can be more vocal in training camp. I think that you're going to see Baker Mayfield set the agenda for the team. And based on the talent level that Baker's bringing to the table and all the other players on that Cleveland Browns team, I think that Odell Beckham Jr. has to fall in line.
And a quick X's and O's point, because you've actually caught passes from Peyton and Eli, and then also from Baker.
Yes, I've worked out with Peyton and Eli.
Right. One of the things you mentioned that I think shocked a lot of people is Eli actually, of the 2 brothers, has the stronger arm.
Yes.
He's not the better quarterback, but he has the stronger arm. But Baker has an even stronger arm than Eli. As a wide receiver, when you have a quarterback with the type of arm Baker Mayfield does, what extra edge does that give you? And what extra, almost, I don't want to say preparation, but what's the adjustment he has to make?
When you have a thrower like Baker, it gives me less anxiety on my route because I don't have to be wide open. I can just be a little bit open. And Baker, they talked about Baker in the pre-draft stuff, that he had a photographic memory. A quarterback with a photographic memory, he's going to read the cornerbacks outside. So he's going to lead me a little inside. He's going to know when they're in cover 4, when they're in cover 8. So I think they're going to see the game at the same level. You also get more yards after the catch because the ball gets to you quicker and the defense doesn't have enough time to react. So when they're trying to recover, wondering where you are, you can have the ball and getting some of that yak. I believe that's one of the biggest things that you have. When you have a quarterback who can throw that fastball, he eats up that time that now the defender, when he gets on you, you already have the ball in your hand and you're on the attack trying to make yards after the catch. That's one of the biggest differences that you'll see. The rest of them, most NFL quarterbacks have a big gun. All right? So there's slight little things you have to coming out of the route getting used to.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from First Things First, or go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.